Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to my first ever video on this channel. We'll be covering all things horror related, so subscribe to stay tuned. Also, if you'd like to leave suggestions below, I'd be happy to hear them. Anyway, today we'll be covering the absolute classic remembered to the likes of Friday the 13th and Scream, the 1992 film SeedPeople. And you know it's good because this was made by the same studio that made Evil Bong. Well, let's get into it. The movie focuses on evil seed aliens that take over people's brains. From what I gather, the only reason they did this out of movie-wise is to cut down on costs, because there's literally only like 3 puppets in a movie with quote-unquote hundreds of aliens. So, the whole movie takes place as our main protagonist, Tom, recounts his story to an FBI agent in the hospital. And the flashback starts with Tom renting an Airbnb that his ex owns. She also has a teenage daughter and is dating Tom's high school rival, which is also a police officer. And I don't know if this is just me, but the officer looks a lot like the dad from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Anyways, it cuts to 2 random guys, which I don't know how Tom knows this because he's not in this scene. That happens a lot in the story. It's a big plot hole. But they go out and they find a weird alien tree with seeds on it. But one guy gets a little bit too close and one of the flowers has an orgasm all over him. The acidic splooge just absolutely melts him, and out of the ejaculate comes a little puppet. The puppet being a seed person. And I have to say that the 3 puppets they have in this film look very good for having probably under $100,000 budget. So I have to give them props for that. So then some filler happens and 2 guys walk into a cave. I think one of them is Tom, and they see an ancient Indian painting of a giant asteroid falling down. This place is called Comet Valley, so I definitely already knew that was going to happen. And continuing on, a great little tune plays as it cuts to the daughter going around taking pictures of stuff in the forest. Then one of the aliens comes out that we saw come out of the guy's ejaculate, and it starts chasing him, and it literally does a Sonic roll. So this alien will be deemed as the Sonic alien, and it went around and chased her. And then later on, these guys, other guys, finds the tree that has the aliens that pop out, and one guy says the golden line.
What in the ding-dong heck-a-ma-doodle hell is
I mean,
that?
10 out of 10 writing, if you ask me. Mr.
The ding-dong heck-a-ma-doodle hell is that?
Started getting covered in honey smacks, and a new alien popped out of his now-deceased body. This alien kind of looks like a fly, and it's pretty cool. They introduced a mad scientist character that's named Doc that definitely will play a bigger role later on. And then it cuts to Tom lecturing about the meteorite painting and just, about the meteorite. Then it cuts to, again, just changing all sorts of perspectives, which should not be happening because it's a guy retelling a story. It cuts to Doc. Then it cuts to Doc being run off by a random guy, and Doc kills a guy by hitting him in his car. And after the lecture, Tom gets given a seed out of a random guy's car. I don't know how the guy got it, but he takes it back and does some research on it. Then a rando goes to visit Doc. I don't really know who it is. I don't think he got a name. And then Doc is very suspicious of everybody being aliens because they shapeshift and take people's brains. So he's swinging an axe at this guy, and then the fly alien starts to absolutely demolish this guy's face. Then it cuts back to Tom's house, and then it cuts back to Tom, and he finds the dead body that Doc ran over. But instead of going to confront Doc, goes back to his house. He sees a creepy maid established in the beginning turn into an alien. And that freaked him out, so now has his nerves up. And this was just then, at that moment, they realized they shapeshifted. But it was told like 3 times, so I'm an absolute doofus. And then Tom, doing something, I guess, sensible, because he's very suspicious of Doc, breaks into Doc's house and finds one of the meteors or seeds going into a fish tank, or living in a fish tank. Then Tom opens the seed for some reason to find a gooey little homunculus that's squirming all around like crazy. It looks very gross. And Tom starts yapping about... Later on, Tom starts yapping to his ex about the aliens. And, of course, she thinks he's crazy. Until the daughter goes missing, which... The reason she did, she ran away to go find the aliens. Because, you know, she saw the Sonic alien. And she sees all of the aliens that, of course, would usually be in their normal forms. Because, you know, why would they be pretending to be humans if there's nobody around? But, you know, they had to cut down on costs. So there's just a bunch of humans standing around doing nothing. Until one of the people does just a straight up animorph thing into one of the aliens. And she starts running away screaming and meets up with Tom. And as she screams, this is the funniest part in the whole movie. Tom, instead of getting her in the car because she's like an underage teen, he just pushes her away, and she has to go get to the car like a total douche. And after Tom shows the video that the daughter got of the aliens, now she's on board. So we have the team of the daughter, the wife, or the ex, the Tom, and Doc. And they go and visit Doc again. This is not when Doc's on board yet. Sorry for saying that. And for some reason, he's in a cave, and Doc reveals that the fish tank was filled with herbicide and that black light kills the aliens, or makes the aliens get out of their brains. And the seeds have been on Earth for thousands of years, and they're just now sprouting. And then our main man literally just watches a woman get killed by a seed person. He just stands there, like in a hospital or something. Like an absolute dipshit. And the whole group, afterwards, goes and spies on the seed people as they dig up a huge mother seed, like a big mother plant tree, that they all sprout from, out of the ground. And I thought, like any sensible person, that this would lead to a big final, like, boss fight, kind of. But of course not. They literally just have the most unclimactic climax I've ever seen in my life. It is so unbelievably boring for the last 20 minutes of this movie. It actually drags it down a bunch. I was like freaking ready to blow my brains out this entire time. I had the pacing like a One Piece arc. And just the entire time they were running around doing jack shit, trying to explode all the aliens. And eventually they do end up doing it, which just gives me a big sigh of relief because that was annoying as hell. And after this, the movie does not end. It cuts back to Tom explain the story and to the FBI agent, and he says that Doc died in the big explosion. And this just sends off the FBI agent to reveal the crazy, epic twist that the FBI agent and everyone in that hospital was all aliens, killing off Tom at the end of the movie. So, overall, for being a C-rank, insanely low-budget horror movie, I think it did its job pretty great. Like I said before, the last 30 minutes are such a slog to get through. But other than that, it's a pretty good horror movie that I recommend to any sci-fi or horror fans. It's pretty standard overall, and it's really just, you know, pretty solid. I had very low expectations, which I kind of feel like I'd rather have like a cheesy, like corny, crappy horror movie, like kind of action-based, because it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's boring, but it doesn't really do anything to like be special or go against the crowd. But, you know, other than that, I like it. Now let's get on to the overall ranking. Alright, so this is my scoreboard, and for my first couple of videos, I'm going to be explaining it. So, the acting, pretty basic. How good was the acting? The plot, how good was the plot? And usually, instead of cheese, it would be, if it's an actually scary horror movie, I would put horror. But I don't think it's fair to compare something like Killer Clowns from Outer Space to something like Midsummer. So I feel like those two can be interchanged. And then finally, the impact it had on me after watching it. Did it leave me horrified? Did it leave me just, you know, shrugging my my shoulders, and then I have a little bonus thing that doesn't actually go into the overall, which is monster design, or like character design. So I give the acting a 6 out of 10. It's not that bad for being, again, a low budget. I really think it's very solid acting. The plot is a 7 out of 10. It's not that creative, but it's also not that bad. Like, aliens, they don't really take advantage of the plant idea that much. And the cheesiness. So the big problem with this movie is that it's not scary, and it's not cheesy, and that's its biggest fault. It's not like, and it's still pretty enjoyable to watch, but it's just so middling in that compartment of either being like completely like corny or being horrifying, to where it's just like very middling. And then the impact, I give it a 6 out of 10. It left me like, okay, that was a pretty good movie, like I didn't hate that, but like, other than it being my first video and having to make a whole video on it, if I didn't make this video, it would have even less than an impact. But overall, I'm going to have to give it a 65 out of 100, which I know if you add them all up and divide them by 4, that's not what it equals, but it just gets some brownie points for being the circumstances they were in. And also, my little bonus section, monster design. I give the monster design a 90%. Because it's just, the monsters look so cool for the budget they had. If you look at the poster for it, which is probably going to has already appeared in this video, all the monsters look pretty good. And I guess I recommend, if you want to watch a low budget movie, this is a great one to watch.